Greenland? How about America's mayor alive? From Nuuk, Finland. I'm here. I mean, Nuuk, the president of Finland is a mile away. That's why I'm saying this. But from Nuuk, Greenland. Ted, get me my hot water bottle.
Well, Mayor, June 14th. June 14th, of course, the president's birthday. Also,
Flag Day.
Flag Day. And it will be the inaugural flight from beautiful Newark, New Jersey to Nuuk. Is it pronounced Nuuk?
N-U-U-K. I don't know how it...
Nuuk or Nuuk?
Nuuk?
Greenland.
Newark to Nuuk would be...
Newark to Nuuk.
Nuuk, I think, would be a terrible thing to call it because we have a base there to prevent nuclear war.
Inaugural flight, June 14th. We may, let's see if we know anybody over at United.
Yeah, United, invite us. We'll play it up big.
We do fly Delta much more often, but...
I mean, so what can I offer you in terms of... I've been to Iceland a few times.
Never been to Greenland?
Never been to Greenland. I've been flown over it.
One of the few countries you haven't been to.
Flown over it a lot.
One of the few countries you haven't been to.
I mean, it's just a tremendous number of things to see.
Do you consider it an aggressive move as one of Denmark's leaders?
Originally, he reacted to it as an aggressive move because the second lady was going to Greenland. I love the way the Trump administration deals with their concerns. They just triple down. So then the president decided to send the national security advisor and the vice president. So it was aggressive to send the first lady. What the hell was it to send the other two? I also think if he thinks that's aggressive, he really... I just say this to the nice people of Greenland. You got one useless prime minister if he thinks that's aggressive. If he thinks that's aggressive, how the hell is he going to defend you against China or Russia? You want to speak Chinese in Greenland? Stick with whatever the hell his name, Aridi. We're sending the second lady there, and this guy thinks it's aggressive. Russia would begin with drones and then fighter planes and then bombers and then you know what? Jesus. We have a certain number of out of control people hanging around, but we'll get them under control. Steve has locked them out. Stephen?
Yes, sir.
Let them in and when they promise to behave. So I would like very, very much to be on that flight. So we're going to work hard to do it. I'm very excited about the Greenland situation because believe it or not, I think this is going to get done. And it isn't that I have a great deal. I don't have a great deal of like additional information about this, like I would about Ukraine or something. I don't have a lot of contacts in Greenland. The other places I have a lot of contacts. It's just a feeling and reading a lot about the Inuit people and the way in which Denmark has screwed them. And I thought Vance today was pretty careful about talking about how they've been screwed by Denmark. He had to bring it up because he has to connect with them. But I mean, they've not taken care of Greenland at all. And and leaving it undeveloped in the sense of this country has great mineral wealth and they're very poor people. And it's pretty easy to make them very rich people. There are only 56,000 of them.
And what kind of natural resources are we talking about there?
Everything.
Are we talking like a dividend similar to Alaska, but perhaps even larger?
Yeah, could be larger, but even with alleged global warming or receding of the ice cap, we're going to theoretically we're going to recapture a lot of that. But it's only even with their biggest estimates, Alaska would still be much more, because that would happen in Alaska too. So, but it's a good supplement to Alaska. It's a very good supplement.
Certainly, and the people could live, very full lives
and
have
also
money to preserve their culture.
Also, they may have less reserves, but they haven't been tapped.
And that's the thing. And
They
it's
haven't been
also,
tapped, so they're. I hate to use the word virgin, but they're virgin
yes,
reserves.
certainly underexplored probably compared to the other regions.
Yeah, and then when you consider what we can do now, this is an American technology stolen by everybody else, but nobody else can do it like us. Fracking and hydraulic drilling. When you consider that whatever oil and gas they have for easy excavation, below that is going to be the same treasure trove of oil, gas, and then a lot of the minerals that are necessary for the expansion of energy.
That's right. Like tomorrow's energy, who knows
Right.
what the next technology will be.
That's one plus. The other plus is when you have that and Alaska, you basically control the Arctic Circle. You control the top of the world. And it becomes very, very hard for them to attack us. If it makes our Golden Dome that much faster to put together and that much more accurate. And Putin knows that. And Denmark, if we had Greenland, Denmark would be safer.
Oh, certainly. The entire northern hemisphere would be safer. And Golden Dome, man, that's a great pursuit to have.
So I think it's going to work, because I think that the ultimate decision is made by 56,000 native Greenlanders, most of them Inuits, most of them interested in being independent but also being connected with a partner that can help them get, I'm going to say wealthy, but help them get out of the poverty that they're in. And what better? There's no nation in the world that's taken more people out of poverty than America.
Amen.
So I think this is going to work, and it's going to be great for us and great for the world. Sitting up there guarding the world. Perfect. So we were looking at this whole situation of waste, and we pointed out that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been able to get rid of 20,000 employees. Has gotten rid of 20,000 employees, and has gotten his budget down by 1.3 billion annually, and most importantly, he's gotten rid of roughly half his divisions. Now that's important, because getting rid of functions is as important as getting rid of people, because then it's harder to just put it right back to where it was. At EPA, Zeldin has been able to do it in one fell swoop, one big one. That was the contract to Stacey Abrams. Now, Stacey Abrams is a person who ran for governor once, was an election denier, but Democrats are allowed to be election deniers without any consequences. And then she ran again, but I don't know. She did much better by losing. She got a $2 billion contract from EPA for something called Power Forward Communities. Nobody knows quite what Power Forward Communities does, except I tell you what, it's made sure that Stacey hasn't lost any meals. If you've taken a look at it lately, Stacey's doing real well. I mean, she comes from the most crooked, I'm not about the whole state, but the most crooked Democratic Party maybe in the country. A lot of people think of New York. New York is crooked as hell. Up from the top to the bottom in the 4 boroughs, everything crooked. The judges and everyone else. It's as if Boss Tweed never left. Chicago, Philadelphia. I told you, in Philadelphia, they cheat in elections when they don't have to cheat in order to practice. St. Louis, Atlanta might be the worst of all.
Detroit.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I've had a chance, unfortunately, in the last 4 or 5 years to look into all of them. And having specialized in those prosecutions, I look for it, right? I would rate, remember when we rated Columbia as the university that hated Jewish people the most?
Anti-Semitic university.
And,
We went to
and
Harvard.
it was a runner-up was Harvard.
NYU's up there.
And unfortunately, I went to NYU. But Columbia won big.
Number 1.
And now it's all being borne out. We were right.
And Stefanik exposed that president, but we were there, the mayor and I want to play some of that video here. We'll keep it up.
But were you ranking?
The mayor was so upset. We got in the car.
I couldn't believe it that my
drove up there.
My police department is defending people who are demonstrating in favor of terrorists who want to kill Jews. And somehow I wanted to say to them, you know, they always have a little thing after death for Israel. What do they say? Death to America. That's you.
Hey,
you're demonstrating for them and you're protecting them, and it's you.
Right. You were about to rank on corruption. I'm quite interested to hear your rankings. Atlanta would be the top. I think so. Detroit. I'm interested to hear.
I think Atlanta's the worst.
Well,
What brings you out tonight?
I'm here to support the NYU students protesting for Palestine.
Are you an NYU student?
I'm not. I'm a Fordham student.
Fordham, okay. And what would you say is the main goal with tonight's protest?
I think the goal is just showing our support for Palestine and demanding that NYU stops. I honestly don't know all of what NYU is doing.
Is there something that NYU is doing?
I really don't know. I'm pretty sure they're... Do you know what NYU is doing? About what? About Israel. Why are we protesting here?
Palestine will be free! I wish I was more educated.
I'm not either.
Oh.
I came from Columbia. I was there up at Columbia, and we came down. They said NYU students needed our support, so I came down. I heard there's lots of cops. Some people were saying it was getting dangerous earlier. I'm not sure if that's true, but I wanted to come and show my support.
Okay, thank you so much. Even saying there, they wish they were more educated. I just wanted to play that.
Maybe if she took a damn ring out of it, though, she'd be able to. She wouldn't be as distracted. What? Do they have it on her because they put a thing on her and walk her around? Well, she may be so dumb she can't get across the street. Sweetheart, would you go get some bread for mommy? Oh, daddy, take her, put it in the nose and take her across the street. You know we can't let her cross the street by herself. This is what we're educating.
Right.
Fordham is a Jesuit college. The Jesuits, were considered the foremost educators, a bit of an undeserved reputation as far as I'm concerned, having gone to Manhattan College, where I thought the Christian Brothers were considerably better. But in any event, the Jesuits were considered the foremost educators. Now they got people that go to rallies and don't even know what it is. I bet you if you asked her the river to the sea thing, she would know what she was talking about.
She would not. They don't know.
The Hudson River to the East River. No,
Yeah.
Sweetheart, they're here. They're right there on that side and this. They're right around you here. Nobody wants to get, I hope you're not in favor of getting rid of everything, that river to that river, because we're all going then.
So the next clip we're going to play, this is the mayor. We literally drove up to Columbia during those protests. Here's Mayor Giuliani.
I have no idea. I hope that we are. Those people are terrorists. Those idiot young people, or whatever they are, they look like they're all different ages. I have no idea. I hope that they're supporting a 50-year terrorist group. And that's an ignorant jury out there. There's an ignorant, ill-educated, uninformed judge.
If you were still running this town, what would you be doing right now to help correct the situation for what's going on all around?
Well, I would tell Adams that he doesn't have to get the permission of the president of Columbia to go in there and straighten out the homelessness, the people with tents. It's part of New York City. And maybe he should learn the law. I wouldn't allow this to go on in my city, for them to have tents in the middle of a campus. They have tents going on. The president of this university has closed down the school, and she's still charging tuition?
Behind us, we gotta get. You can. He can pull over. He can pull over. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. You can pull over. How do you think the mayor's doing right now with all this?
The mayor? The mayor's in Miami.
You are terrorist, Giuliani. The blood is on your head.
That was we laughed, but he was. The mayor was out of town.
The point there was the people make up these rules that have no basis in law. Columbia University, although it is private property, you can't commit public crimes on private property. So, pitching tents, beating up people, burning buildings. We don't have to call up President Schnuckelfuffel and say, President Schnuckelfuffel, can we come in? And she would say, well, let me check with my board. We'll be taking a vote. Well, the vote was tied. I think that means you can't come in. No, you would just push President Schnuckelfuffel aside and take over. You just don't get to do it in my city. Sorry, we don't burn anything in my city. If you like Columbia being burned, I don't like the odor for the rest of the city, okay? So we're not going to let Columbia be burned, and we're not going to let people here get violated, and we're not going to let civil rights get violated here by the way you're treating Jewish people. I got a bunch of Jewish kids out here who can't go to school today because you're allowing their rights to be destroyed by a bunch of terrorist-loving jackasses. So we're going to get rid of the terrorist-loving jackasses. And we're still fighting over this, aren't we? We're still fighting over this. We've got several of these people lined up for being thrown out of the United States, and they're being held up by Democratic judges. Every single one of these 64 injunctions, which is more than any president has ever received, comes from a Democratic judge. And in some cases, well, we'll go over them and you'll see. But Musk, has a 138-day limit on how long he can work for the government unpaid. And yesterday he did a kind of a report, and he says that they have a goal every day to save at least $4 billion, and they work on weekends. And he believes that by the time he's ready to go, and he believes he's ahead of schedule, he can take out about $1 trillion. Now, $1 trillion is half what their original goal was of 2. However, it would pretty much knock our deficit more than in half. It also would, in many, many ways, that we probably can't even anticipate because that hasn't happened to us in so long. It would create a tremendous amount of additional revenue for us. So most people think that if he can do that, we're going to have just a tremendous bounce to our economy. And our government's going to have much more flexibility. Like if we got to come up with a lot of money to rebuild our Navy. We don't build ships in America anymore. This is the country that was the biggest shipbuilding country in the world. This country invented most of the, particularly military ships. We invented them: the aircraft carrier, the destroyer. The Brooklyn Navy Yard was the biggest producer of ships in the Second World War. If you ever go over to the Intrepid Museum, which is the old aircraft carrier, it was built in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. The last one built there was the John F. Kennedy. They don't build in the Brooklyn Navy Yard anymore. It's luxury housing now. They don't build in any Navy yards anymore. That has to change. We've got to be in control of our own destiny. We have to have a 2-ocean Navy that can deter and defeat and make China look at it and say it isn't worth it. It makes no sense. What they can do to us is so bad that it's just not worth it. That's the only way you deter bullies and maniacs and killers, and which is what they are. So you need the money to do it. You need the financial flexibility to do it. And the idea that they're torturing this man Musk for trying to get that for us is disgraceful. And they know what they're doing. They know he's doing nothing wrong. See, I mean, he's actually doing what they all promised at one time or another, but never meant.
Right.
We're going to attack waste, fraud, and abuse.
Oh yeah, we got
right. But the Democratic Party attack waste, fraud, and abuse that have no money. They'd be broke. They get all their money from the people who are doing waste, fraud, and abuse. Oh, and put a big emphasis on that middle one, fraud.
So here's President Obama in 2011.
Wasteful spending. At a time when families have had to cut back, one of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending. At a time when families have had to cut back, have had to make some tough decisions about getting rid of things that they don't need in order to make the investments that they do. We thought that it was entirely appropriate for our governments and our agencies to try to root out waste, large and small, in a systematic way. Obviously, this is even more important given the deficits that we've inherited and that have grown as a consequence of this recession. This makes these efforts even more imperative. Now, this does mean making some tough choices. It means cutting some programs that I think are worthy, but we may not be able to afford right now. We don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending that's out there.
Whoa. Mr. President, these Democrats, they keep saying Congress, we need Congress, we need Congress. Well, their savior, their top person. We don't need to waste for Congress, word for word.
Well,
word for word from the horse's mouth.
Yeah. So, but when the shoe is on the other foot, to use another cliche, it changes completely. We don't need to wait for Congress to do something about wasteful spending until we actually do something about it. Because you became a billionaire on wasteful spending. There's another guy. How did you become so rich?
Phony.
Well, I think the agencies have gotten the point. I pointed out the savings that Zeldin has been able to get, the savings that Robert Kennedy has been able to get. Each one of them really, I think, understands the overriding importance of getting spending under control so that we then have the resources to do what we want to do and to make ourselves a very sound and well-defended country. So Musk should be getting our thanks and our appreciation. Boy, he could do plenty of other things, couldn't he? And look, you need somebody like him to do this. I mean, you can't just take somebody who has no knowledge of business and ask them to do. Even if they wanted to do it, they wouldn't be able to do it. Plus, the wily bureaucrats who have been living off. I hate to, living off ridiculous amounts of money for staying home, would find ways to spin them around, which is what they do constantly. This massive bureaucracy. So, the next thing I want to show you, I think as we talk about what happened to Trump to Musk, it raises a real concern. And the concern is that the Democrat Party has become really violent now. Do we need a break?
No.
Oh, yeah, let's take one right now, and then we can spend time on what I want to do is to show you how we're moving, and we want to get ahead of it if we can. You go back to the beginning of Trump, and they started in with things you would never believe, paying money to develop a completely fraudulent story in order to stop him from being president, and then in order to remove a lawfully elected president from office based on fraud. The fraud was the invented Russian collusion, which Hillary Clinton paid $1.1 million. She laundered it through the Perkins Coie law firm, who are crying like babies now because they're being cut off from certain government programs. Maybe they should have thought of that before they became an integral part of one of the worst crimes in the history of America. And then Steele wrote a dossier which was completely false about Russia. Hadn't been in Russia in 17 years. He wrote it in Ukraine. He got most of the information in Ukraine. Ukraine supplied some of the fraudulent evidence, because nobody ever told you that. And then they furthered that for 3 more years after the FBI had concluded there was nothing to it. So that's pretty bad, right? Hard drive comes along. They accuse Trump and me of being Russian agents. They get 51 broken down old intelligence bums who have made some of the most horrendous mistakes in the history of our country. I mean, this is the group that told us about the weapons of mass destruction that never existed, or allowed Bengali to take place. I mean, why anybody would believe him is amazing, but they did, and they hid that hard drive for 17 months, and it turned out to be absolutely accurate, absolutely true, and we ended up. I still don't know how we did it. We ended up putting a massive criminal who was deranged and perverted into the White House for 4 years. So, and then we could go on and on and on and on and on. And then when nothing else worked, they tried to kill him. So now they have lined up the Democrats in the courts to, for whatever reason, stop everything he's doing. The law be damned. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the law is. Just stop him. Enter an injunction for the whole country. Here you are, a judge in the Southern District of New York, and you're telling California what to do and not to do, or Louisiana. Where under the Constitution did you get that power? And what makes you think you had it? Or you're telling the president, as the worst, most vicious, and most dangerous judge in America did the other day, and when you come back, we'll tell you who that is. You say to the president, you can't fire people from government agencies. You say you can't fire people from government agencies because they have terms of office and they can only be fired for cause. But you just ignore the constitutional principle that's right there in the Federalist Papers, right there in the obvious way in which the executive branch was structured, that you can have a voice in hiring but not in firing. You just ignore that because you're not really a judge. You're an operative of an authoritarian force, which is, preserving the Democrat crooked state. So we'll be back very shortly, and we'll show you some of these things and how they're progressing. And it may seem really, really tough, and there may be delays, but we're slowly, step by step, we're making a lot of progress. But there's still a lot of blood that's going to be on the floor. We'll be back very shortly. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. Okay?
Yes, I'm getting those right now.
That can be the next thing we do.
Oh, there we go.
Are we back?
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory, or not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep green, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with you with America's Mayor Live. Well, I was saying to you that the Democrats are on a progression here. Just like each one of these attacks on either Donald Trump or all of us around him, whether it's Elon Musk which is a current major attack, or now on the foreign policy establishment, Walls and Vance. These are all orchestrated, and they're beyond the usual political attack because they involve a tremendous amount of fraud, a tremendous amount of dishonesty. They actually involve criminal acts in many cases. You know, getting fraudulent documents, having somebody like Comey sign a Pfizer affidavit that's a lie, and really a major crime given what Pfizer stands for, or corrupting the FBI and using them like they're the SS. So that was another level we got to, right? Then we got to the level of using the courts to bring criminal charges that were frame-ups, obvious to any partially educated lawyer. The case in Manhattan in which he was charged with putting in a false statement in order to further a felony, and then never told what the felony is. Now, I'm sorry, you can't do that. A case like that, any honest judge, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, or whatever hell else they are, right, would have thrown that case out. Goodbye case that we don't see anymore. That's a violation of the due process they claim to want to have for the rapists, the murderers, the child molesters. I mean, they're really worried about due process for all these Venezuelan animals. But what about telling Trump what you were charged with? That's due process. No, that was gone. And finally, when nothing else worked, well, maybe they did and maybe they didn't have something to do with it, but two people tried to kill him. So everything's been tried. And now they got a new one. And it's to organize what apparently are the totally political judges, that they have appointed in the federal judiciary. Because the rulings that they are doing are completely phony. There's no legal basis. Some of them are completely contrary to the law. And it's just too damn coincidental that 95% of them are signed by Democrats, stopping him from firing people. I mean, if they'd go back and look at the Constitutional Convention, the one thing that's clear is the president has complete authority to fire anyone. You can put any qualifications you want on the office. Can't do it. The Constitutional Convention decided they would interfere in hiring but not firing. It's built right into the Constitution. Every judge knows that. And the judges who stop the firing are prostitutes, paid prostitutes of the Democratic Party. Okay, but now we've gotten to the level of violence, haven't we? We say, they shot at him and tried to kill him. Now, were they directly involved, or was it their rhetoric that did it, or the atmosphere that they created? But let's listen to just a little bit of it, and you see if you hear any Republicans talking this way, and also say to yourself, if a Republican talked this way, what would have happened? So let's start. Who do we have first? Jasmine. Oh, our most recent one, Jasmine. Yeah.
Politicians. So I'll make sure that I keep it short, but I am truly here for very selfish reasons. Starting with on March 29th, it's my birthday. And all I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down. Yes. Listen, I have learned as I serve on the DOGE Oversight Committee that there is only one language that the people that are in charge understand right now. And that language is money. And so I've been so proud to see us organized behind a cause of politicians. So I'll make sure that I keep it short, but I am truly here for very selfish reasons. Starting with on March 29th, it's my birthday. And all I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down. Yes. Listen, I have learned.
Okay, let's cut her off.
On the DOGE oversight.
We know that she's learned that money is important, and I'm sure she's getting plenty of it. She wants Elon taken down. Now, imagine if a Republican used an expression like taken down in an era of violence. Let's go on.
So next up we have...
I believe he expects violence. I believe he expects confrontation. I believe he's working toward a civil war. What does Trump expect? Oh, I believe he expects violence. I believe he expects confrontation. I believe he's working toward a civil war. What does Trump expect? Oh, I believe he expects.
Well, I'm not sure exactly why we picked that one, but
that wasn't the right one.
She's had many that were much clearer than that. Yeah. Now, if we don't have them, tell me, and don't put another one up like it. So if you look at this Crockett person, before she made her comment about Governor Abbott, which you would not call violent, but you call completely insensitive, particularly since this was a human rights conference and they all laughed at a disabled man. Maybe all of them should be just thrown out of, if they get a grant for the government for the human rights, it should be canceled. This is like, China being on the Human Rights Committee. If these people are laughing at a guy in a wheelchair. But, I mean, she's done much worse than that. She's not only said that Elon Musk should be taken down, she said it was important to punch Republicans. Yeah, it's important to punch Republicans.
Oh, we go to Schumer.
Schumer, I do not understand why Schumer hasn't been prosecuted for this, but go ahead. This is about as clear a violation of the law as you can get. You cannot threaten Supreme Court justices.
And they're taking away fundamental rights. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
Within a couple of weeks of that, a guy showed up near Justice Kavanaugh's residence with major explosives to kill him and his family. And they tried to accuse Trump of insurrection when nobody had a firearm, much less explosives. And Trump never said anything anywhere like that. Actually, what Trump said was go peacefully and patriotically. That didn't instigate what the guy did. And by the way, in and of itself, the threat that he made is a crime. Supreme Court justices you can't intimidate Supreme Court justices with regard to decisions. It's a crime. And not only that, but the phony, crooked law enforcement in the Washington area never did anything to protect the judge from that. Those people should have been moved way away from his house. So watch out. I mean, they are moving more and more toward violence, and they're getting more and more desperate. And something that you might have thought would happen if they were, and I don't want to say if they were adults, because this is not childish behavior. This is the behavior of criminals. If they weren't criminals, they would by now have calmed down, accepted the fact that they have a year or two of at least looking like they're working with Trump, at least pretending for us that they care about the country. And then, you know, when you get close to the midterm elections, we start fighting again. And then when the midterm elections are over, you give the president 2 or 3 months, and then you start heading to the presidential election. But it's always been true in our country, before we had these criminals take over the Democrat Party, that both parties found periods of time when we could do the government's business, where we could put aside not giving the president a victory, because that's what they want to make sure the president doesn't get a victory. Now think about that. The country can't succeed if the president doesn't get a victory. Republicans didn't think of that when they supported the Civil Rights Bill. They didn't think of that when they supported Clinton's triangulation. Clinton, back in the mid 90s, when he was in deep trouble and looked like he was going to lose, brought in a group of advisors and under Dick Morris, and they basically just legislated the entire Republican program. Now, the Republicans could have found 10 reasons to block that, like they did. When Trump originally proposed the wall, Trump thought he was proposing their program. Schumer, Pelosi had all been in favor of a wall. One of the biggest surprises he got was he was a xenophobe. They were okay for proposing it, but he was a xenophobe for doing it, and they opposed it. There's something seriously wrong with them. It's not just politics as usual. These people are criminals. I know it's hard. It's hard to accept, and it's deeply embedded. It started when you elect people who are morally depraved. This is what happens. And your last president was even beyond morally depraved. Clinton wasn't much better, and Obama. Ooh. We'll be right back.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time,
are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month.
Wow.
Including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax.
Wow.
Channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost. cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly, where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with you. And we were discussing how dangerous things have become. And of course, you see that playing out with something that really is extraordinary and horrible, which is these attacks on what they call attacks on Tesla. They're attacks on American people. They're not attacking Elon Musk, and they shouldn't be attacking Elon Musk. They're attacking Sam Johnson's automobile. Or if Sam Johnson is in it, him. Or if they throw Molotov cocktails at a Tesla dealership, they're trying to kill the people who work in the Tesla dealership and the people who are looking for cars in the Tesla dealership, or the people who just might be walking by the Tesla dealership, or the guy who's delivering sandwiches to the Tesla dealership. These guys are animals. Who does that kind of behavior anywhere? And we're supposed to tolerate it? That's not free speech. That's terrorism. And I'm glad to see that we have an FBI now that's put together a task force to cut them out. And you can do it. This is organized. In some ways, the hardest thing to do and the easiest thing to do is to pursue organized crime. It's hard because you got to come up with a plan, and you have to figure out where they are. But once you get it, you can take them down real fast. And I think I have a pretty good idea who's funding this, and I'm sure Kash Patel knows exactly who's funding it. And I don't think it's going to go on very long. I don't think it can be a growth business for these bums. But it is an indication, because it'll break out in other ways. It's an indication of how violent the opposition party has become. It's a party of violence now. It's not a party even of Marxist ideology or dedication to Islamic extremism. I mean, when it was Obama, it was dedication to Islamic extremism in ways that sounded insane, in ways that were insane. But people just couldn't accept. They couldn't understand how does an American president give billions and hundreds of billions of dollars to a Muslim terrorist who turns around and kills Americans? Or how does someone get into office who's just taken $30 million from our biggest enemy, China, and then give away strategic air bases to China with nobody even criticizing him? Nobody except me even mentioning it, and Trump. Well, that was pretty bad. But now, I mean, starting with Butler, now it's like, let's shoot him. Let's go kill people who have Teslas so that we stop Musk? Or we create such chaos that America becomes what they want, an authoritarian state, rule from the top, part of a one world, and that China will take advantage of that in a moment. And China is working toward that, but China doesn't want, China wants one world dominated by China, which is what they're going to find out. Now, something is happening in China, and you're not going to read about this or hear about this in most American media, because one of the things that China has done, which among many, many other things that are brilliant and satanic in a way, is infiltrate us to such an extent that people will not report critical news about China. It's the reason their role in COVID was covered up. And it's the reason why when Trump called it the China virus, they made it like the worst thing it could possibly, he was xenophobic, and they frightened everybody into focusing on the fact that it came from China. That's because China has purchased a lot of America to react that way for them. So if you don't have sources inside of China, then you should read the Epoch Times or the Epoch Times. They began as a Chinese newspaper. They were tossed out of China. Their people have been killed in China, and they still have the best sources there. Right now, there are an alarming number of arrests going on within Xi Jinping's inner circle. The defense minister hasn't been seen for 3 months. That's problem number one. 2 of the top generals, I think 1 and 2, have been arrested. We don't know, of course, for what. One just recently, He Wing Weidong, who's the third in command of the Communist Party's People's Liberation Army, and several of his compatriots have just been arrested. Now, he was a close ally of Xi Jinping, and he was part of the larger group called the Fujian clique, which has always been the main support for Xi Jinping. So his getting arrested is hard to understand, and no reason has been given, so we don't understand why he was arrested. Just to make it worse, the second-ranked vice chairman of the CCP Central Military Commission and a member of the party's Politburo, which you know is the very top of the party, has not been seen in public since March 11. And they don't know. His name is Zhang Yuzia. They don't know what happened to him. And finally, the number 2 general is also missing, and therefore reported to have been arrested, but no one is certain. Now, these charges, this is like the Democratic Party would like America to be. They can just put you in jail and not tell anybody. So we don't know why he's in jail. An investigative journalist who lived in China, knows China, can't quite figure out, since the focus is on this group that used to be very supportive of Xi. So he raises the question, is this an attempt to take out his support, to take him out? Because there is a lot of anger at him for the financial condition of China. They were used to massive growth, which was also exaggerated massive growth. If they grew 8%, they would say 15. And if they grew 6%, it was 10. And now they can't, it's like almost like a Ponzi scheme. They've got no money to go and take and put somewhere to make it appear as if a lot of people aren't starving. So their financial situation is ruinous. And I'm sorry, people starve and they bring down, any dictatorship is vulnerable to the people starving. That's how the Soviet Union went, right? So are they taking his people out because they want to take him out? Because it's quite clear that his economic policies and his obsessive desire for a top-down government is creating a situation where it's almost impossible to work your way out of the economic problem that's been created, which is that people aren't investing in China. They're pulling out of China. They're afraid of him. I can tell you direct conversations that go back even a few years, in which countries that had taken money from China for all kinds of programs regret it now because they're being leaned on in a way that would be more reminiscent of the mafia than a government. So something is going on. The other possibility is that he's eliminating them, because internally there are people in the Chinese government that realize that he's ruining the country. So going to be really hard for us to get the reason, because unlike the Soviet Union at a similar time, we don't have the deep intelligence roots in China that we had in Russia, where we could have a pretty good idea when they were serious, when they weren't. And I would say, having been part of the government back then, if this were happening in the Soviet Union during the time right before Gorbachev, we would have been pretty sure of why it was happening. We would have known this is an attempt to get rid of him, or this is his attempt to get rid of them. And the fact that we don't tells you that China has done a very, very good job of insulating itself against our intelligence and has done a masterful job of infiltrating us. I mean, they basically own Hollywood. I mean, you can watch a Hollywood movie, and if you can't see the influence of Chinese communism, you're not that well educated politically. And it's impossible, except in a place like the Epoch Times, to get a really critical article about China. I defy you to find this reported in even conservative newspapers. I mean, the Wall Street Journal has a problem with China. Maybe Rupert Murdoch has a problem with China. I mean, they can buy anybody except Donald Trump, which is why, thank God, he became president. But with all that's going on, Ukraine, Middle East, got to keep your eye on China, because in the long run, they're our only competitor. The rest can cause trouble. The rest can hurt us in our effort to compete with China, or they can help us in our effort to compete with China. But they're the, as they say, they're the whole ball game. Kash Patel is doing a great job. A great job. And I knew he would, and he's just begun. So I think it was yesterday, they announced arrests of about 210 illegal aliens in Nassau County. And they put together a task force there with the local Nassau County police, the local police forces, I think with the Suffolk County police and the FBI. And in just about a week and a half, they came up with about 200 plus very dangerous illegal aliens. Now, that's one of the headquarters of MS-13. So you think of Long Island, I think of Long Island as a suburban, rural, country area. When you get further out, the Hamptons, the North Shore. It also happens to be where MS-13 showed up about 2012, 2013. And their first act was to chop the head of a girl off and put it on the beach in Iceland. That was their entry. And since then, they've dominated a lot of that. And Kash Patel went right after them, went right into the lion's den. And they took out 240. And now what he's doing is he's suggesting that they replicate this task force in 50 states. And he's asked Governor Hochul to make it statewide. Governor Hochul is in Buffalo now, trying to figure out when is she going to collect all her money for her husband from the Buffalo Stadium that she's been working on for a decade. So she can't be bothered with this. And not only that, if he tried to explain it to her, she's too dumb to understand it. She does understand kickbacks, really good at that. And that's about it. And she comes out of the sleaziest state legislature in the country, which is the New York State Legislature, that I once offered as a young, wise guy. I said, make me the U.S. attorney in Albany, and I don't know, I'll promise you half the legislature. But I actually thought I could get all of them. That's my feeling about my state. In Albany, it's crooked as hell. And in New York City, it hasn't been honest since Boss Tweed, except the occasional Republican or independent who gets elected, like me, or LaGuardia, or Bloomberg. Certainly not Mayor Lindsay, who got elected as a Republican, but decided to join the crooked team and became a Democrat. And the city was one of the worst under him. The pursuit of illegal aliens by the team that the president has put together has to be the quickest and the fastest turnaround we've ever seen. So we go from records of illegal entry into the United States. One year, they got up to 3.5 million. So remember, before President Demented, the most we ever had was about 800,000. When Trump left office, it was 450,000. The first year of Biden, it was 1.7 million. 1.7 million. Then 2.4 million. And 3.5 million people. The last 2 months, particularly the month of February, and we'll see about March, February was the lowest month for illegal entry, not in the last 10 years, ever, since they started keeping. I mean, it's gone down to, I'm not going to say nothing, hundreds a day. Now, what does that do? That frees up a lot of people to do two things. And one they never tell you about, and that is to cover the areas that are not official points of entry. Because as many people come in those areas as through the points of entry. And those people can tend to be the most dangerous. That's the way fentanyl comes in. They don't walk into the booth in El Paso and say, gee, don't look at that package. It contains $10 million worth of fentanyl. They go in a point somewhere between El Paso and east of it, and they'll look for an open area, and they'll cross that way. And the more that are coming in and overloading the established ports of entry, the more our people are tied up, and the more then can come in. So the estimates run, take the number that you have registered and add 50% in pretty good times and 200% in bad times. That would mean when the president tells you it was 20 million, he's not far off. And the reality is whether they came in through a port of entry where we took very little information, because in many cases we took none, we were moving them through so fast, or they came in without even being known. Some of these people we know nothing about, nothing. And others we know very, very little about. So when they say they're not criminals, how can they say that? They don't know. Now, if you start looking at statistics, you realize how terribly raped we were by Biden. 60% of the crime in Queens, New York 2 months ago was by illegal aliens. 60%. New York has a crime reduction right now, maybe 3-4%. It probably would have a crime reduction of about 15% if it weren't. Most of the crime is being committed by the illegal migrants now, illegal aliens. As soon as Trump came into office, and as soon as Holman got there and started to pull out the Tren Diaragua, who the chief judge in the District of Columbia, Bosboob, that's his name, Bosboob? He wants to bring them back. Do you know that moped theft has gone down 75%? So who was doing the moped theft? The Biden invitees, Tren Diaragua, right, who the Biden judges would like to come back because I guess they like moped theft. And they sure as hell don't seem to care about rape or pedophilia, because I want to bring them all back too. Right. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Why would you want to bring these animals back? What the hell's wrong with you? Maybe they should go down to that prison in El Salvador and take a look at these people. I had to do that when the Marielitos were coming in. I don't know if the Marielitos were as bad or worse than these people, but they were very similar. And these are uncontrollable animals. The reason they have to be treated in a very disciplined way is they'll kill each other. Or they'll kill the prison guard. We had people that committed killings because they were bored. They didn't have anything to do, so they just kill somebody. When Biden opened the border, that was probably the single most damaging thing an American president ever did to this country. It probably is the single most damaging thing anybody ever did to their country. He opened the border to anybody who wanted to come in. And when you do that, since there are a lot of very, very dangerous people around the world, all of whom were smarter than Biden, which was easy, they'd all take advantage of it. I mean, if Biden opened the border of the United States and you ran the Sinaloa cartel, and you didn't take advantage of sending in about 4,000 or 5,000 of your members every month, you'd be fired as the head of the Sinaloa cartel because they would say you were stupid. The guy is opening his arms to you. You want to have representatives in every city so you can have more control over the drug traffic, which the Mexicans didn't have before. And now this country is filled with Mexican cartel people in every city. They're everywhere, every city. And they're going to be there until we throw them out.
And Mayor, a member of our live audience has a question, and it pertains to this topic. Give us your name, sir.
Name's James Lennon. How are you?
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Pleasure. Yeah, it's infuriating to me that everyone, including Donald Trump, still refers to this criminal, unprecedented travesty, which makes the Greek Trojan horse look like child's play, okay, as incompetence and letting them in. They were not let in. They were brought in using our money through NGOs. How come we can't get the messaging right on this? Because it was a criminal act. It wasn't just incompetence.
First of all, you're absolutely right. It was a deliberate plan to bring them in. It's obvious as hell. I mean, it doesn't even take much analysis to figure it out. At the Democratic convention in 2020, which was abbreviated because of COVID, Biden, during his acceptance speech, told all of them to get ready to come in. He announced it in advance. In fact, we started to get increases in illegal entries in anticipation of his coming in. By the time Trump came out of office, some of them already seeped in, and there were thousands on the other side of the border coming in. I mean, we go from 440,000 to 1.7 million in a matter of a couple months. And think about it. We go from 2 million to almost nothing on the other side by just doing the simple things you have to do to stop them from coming in. This was an invitation for them to come in. I think in his case, specifically China, I think he made it easier for China to come in. The Chinese, the number of questions asked of the Chinese when we caught them, only four questions. So you can get any spy in. I don't know. There's so many things to prosecute for. You're going to have to be disciplined about what you do. But this seems to me to, I mean.
Is there any greater act of treason than organizing from within your own country?
No.
The invasion of your country by up to 20 million
No, it should
foreigners.
be prosecuted. If you can prove it, it should be prosecuted. You also should prosecute the sanctuary state people. The people, I mean, I don't know where the city of Boston or the city of New York or the city of Chicago gets to tell its police, don't tell the immigration services when you have an illegal immigrant. So 9 of the people that were picked up in Boston as part of this task force, They picked up 270, but 9 of them were child molesters who were walking the streets. So they had been arrested. Several of these kids were 14 years old who had been raped. They were either let out on bail or they were given no bail. Some of them had finished their sentence. And all of them were available for deportation. You could throw them all out. The police were not allowed to tell the immigration service that they were there, which to me, that means you don't really give a damn if your people get raped. I mean, it doesn't even, this stupid mayor in Boston, Woo Poo You, whatever the hell her name is, who sounds like a nitwit when she's on television. She doesn't care if people in Boston get raped. Well, those are part of the people that were grabbed, and those are part of the people that are sitting in El Salvador now, that the other judge, Bubblehead?
Judge Boasberg.
He wants to bring back. He wants to bring him back. We're gonna go into the worst prison in South America, and we're gonna take out 250 murderers and bring them back to the United States. They're gonna think we're crazy. I mean, the president of El Salvador who did this with us, you're gonna think we're absolutely out of our minds. We're suicidal. He's getting a lot of money from us for taking care of them, and we got him out of the United States. Among other things, we're saving the lives of American prison guards by getting them out of the United States. I used to be in charge of the Bureau of Prisons. One of the worst situations I ever had was a guy who was convicted of murder twice, who was spared from the death penalty twice, who killed a prison guard with 4 children on Christmas Eve. And when asked why he did it, that's where I came up. He said he was bored. I'm going to spend the rest of my life here, so I wanted to see if I get a trial. So we never bothered to try him. We just put it on his record so he'd never be released. But that made me, if I ever had any doubts about the death penalty, that changed my mind completely. I said, well, they say death penalty is not a deterrent. Well, it sure would have been for that guy because he never would have gotten to kill my prison guard. So these are, it's almost impossible for me to describe to you how bad these criminals are. And the only reason I know it is because I became Associate Attorney General. Ronald Reagan appointed me, and I had to deal with the people that Castro was sending in, the Marielitos, who were the worst we ever dealt with before. Now, that was only 30 or 40,000. We're talking here at least, it could be a couple million. And thank God we've got the will to fight back with the people that we have. And I think they're going to overcome, I think they're going to overcome these judges. I think so. I think this is a temporary problem. But, with John Roberts and Barrett, you never know. I mean, if they think that the Washington press corps will go too much like that, I think they cave in.
If people are not prosecuted for this crime, we can expect it again, can we not?
Yeah, sure. The same thing is true with what they're trying to do with saying, well, we shouldn't be vindictive. Well, that's a dodge. I mean, that's a smokescreen. That's being put up to protect themselves. It isn't being vindictive. I never prosecuted anybody because I was vindictive. I prosecuted people because of justice and deterrence. Certain crimes have to be brought to justice for people to feel like they live in a civilized society. And certain crimes have to be brought to justice so they don't happen again. And the ones you're talking about, I believe that if we had prosecuted Comey for forgery and for fraud, if we had prosecuted Strzok and his mistress, if we had prosecuted McCabe, who's on CNN, who lied and got people put in jail and tried to frame General Flynn, maybe about 8, not everybody, about 8 or 10 of these people. Even if we couldn't prosecute Hillary, who I thought should be prosecuted. But I think if we had done them, they just slowed down. They're not, as you can see, the way they're reacting, they don't want to go to jail. They want to put you in jail, but they don't want to go to jail. So if you had shown that we can be tough, some of this might have stopped already.
Weren't we supposed to learn that in the schoolyard when we were kids, when the bully comes up and how to handle a bully?
Yeah, right. I have a book called Leadership. One of the chapters is stand up to bullies as a lesson of leadership. And I use simple schoolyard examples and also the example of Hitler, in which we appeased him and appeased him and appeased him and appeased him and almost lost all of Europe. And that's what we've been doing with the Ayatollah. What the hell is he doing hanging around this long? And he just gets away with killing Americans, taking our money. It's about time we get rid of him. Well, let's see how much of it. I mean, there's so much for the president to accomplish. And when I see him, I worry about him. It's very hard for one man to accomplish all this. The only thing I can tell you is he's got some really. I reacted to that so-called chat that came out differently than other people. I don't think they should have done it on a phone. I think it was a mistake. It's an understandable mistake. I think the reporter is a complete traitor. If I had gotten a secure communication accidentally from the Biden administration, and they were planning something, I would have immediately known immediately if I held on to it. I probably could catch them and doing something. They never did anything right. I mean, Gates even told you that Biden never made a correct decision in his life. So if you gave me the beginning of Afghanistan and had let me into their chat room, I could have justified holding on to it, because by the end, I'd be able to show how completely moronic they are or traitorous. But I would have immediately called up and turned it in, because my country is more important to me. Then this guy is sitting there. The country doesn't. He hasn't thought about his country yet, maybe ever. But what is he thinking about here? I can have a great story, and I can bury Trump. Screw the fact that there appears to be an insecure communication that China can be looking at. If I'm looking at it, China can be looking at it. He has no obligation to this country, and the emphasis is on somebody who made an innocent mistake. That's a deliberate act to hurt the country. The other is an obviously a mistake, but an innocent mistake. And by the way, it turned out nobody was hurt. We generally don't go crazy when nobody's hurt, but it does tell you what they were all about. So when I listened to their conversation, though, they all impressed me with being very serious people who are not going to take any shit. I mean, the way they were discussing it was, there was some disagreement, but it was good disagreement. It was like we spent 4 years being guided by either traitors or fools, and we finally have really sensible people. So it sounds like at least that group, they're going to get the job done, and they're not going to be dissuaded from doing it. I think we've made as much progress as we could possibly make in 2 months, given the realities of what we face. But we got to keep going. Have to keep going.
I liked Elon's interview last night on Fox, where he said, "It's going pretty slowly, but for the government, it's lightning fast." But for me, this is pretty slow.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know government time better than they do, because I was in the government for 17 years. This is astounding. I mean, when I look, we don't even pay attention. Like today, I just noticed that thing with HHS. Kennedy got rid of 20,000 people. It takes a while to get rid of 20,000 people. You don't do it in 2 months. He says he's saving $4 billion a day.
Share a short clip from Elon. This is last night's interview that James just referenced.
And I think they've all
We are
bought
cutting
into
the
it.
waste and fraud in real time. So every day that passes, our goal is to reduce the waste and fraud by $4 billion a day, every day, 7 days a week. And so far, we are succeeding. We are cutting.
Wow. That's quite something.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to stop him. I mean, why would he stop?
Right.
All you're doing is I mean, I think he's the kind of person where you're not going to frighten him.
Right.
So the more they attack him, the more motivated he's going to be.
Right.
I hope they're protecting him really well, though, personally.
And not that long ago, he was a Democrat. So he's, as much as he learned in a short time, he's still learning. And when he sees these things, he's still learning from seeing them.
Oh, I know from having gone through, in a different area, the same thing. Look, I had a naive belief in the criminal justice system that you can't imagine. I mean, I just loved it. I thought and to see it crash down, it was like, it was emotional. I had to deal with it. I mean, I went too far trusting it would straighten itself out. I had to eventually just accept the fact that it's become, well, for these purposes, I might as well be in the Soviet Union or Nazi Germany or China. One of the judges that I was in front of, Beryl Howell, was the most bloodthirsty January 6th judge. And I would look in her eyes and I could see a really cruel human being. She's an absolutely cruel human being. So she just got reversed, Ted.
That's right.
She just got reversed on an issue where she made up the Constitution. The president fired from two different agencies. He fired two different people. Both of them are in these agencies that have these 5-year terms. So the president fired them before their term was out, and possibly you have to fire them for cause. The Constitution makes it clear that there is no impediment to the president firing anyone. In fact, it's so clear that you can go read the Constitutional Convention debate if you're a judge and not a dictator like she is. And you can see they actually debated whether to put a qualification on the president's ability to fire. They had put one on his ability to hire, advise and consent for important positions. At one point, they thought of putting no restrictions on it. At another point, they thought of putting both restrictions on. President would have to get advice and consent to hire, and he'd have to demonstrate cause to fire. And then they decided, no. The fair, and this was pretty much Hamilton and Madison, the fair conclusion here was we can help them with the hiring because everybody can make errors in hiring. Hiring's difficult. But we can't force a president or anyone else, an executive, to keep someone they don't want. How's he going to carry out how are we going to be able to hold him accountable if we require him to keep incompetent people or people who have proved themselves to be incompetent or dishonest, and there's no endeavor, no enterprise in which you don't have a few of those people? Because they were very real. These were like real people, not like the jackasses we have in editorial boards. And I mean, if you run an organization of 10,000 people, some of them are going to be incompetent and some are going to be crooked. And you mean you can't fire them? And you're the boss? How are you be held accountable? I mean, if I can't get rid of a baseball player who can't hit, I can't give you a winning team. So she knows that. She's a smart enough judge. So she ruled against him. And the D.C. Circuit reversed her. So the president is now able to fire both of them.
Can I ask you a constitutional question on this matter?
Mm-hmm.
So Madison and Jefferson primarily were concerned about the tyranny of the judiciary. And there was nothing about constitutional or judicial review in the Constitution. Marbury versus Madison changed that, and we accepted it. We acceded to the idea that the Supreme Court could say, okay, what you did, Congress or president, was unconstitutional. That accession has been in delicate balance since, with an understanding that the power to do that is only based on that subtle sort of almost unwritten agreement in Marbury versus Madison. At what point is that agreement null and void? What kind of behavior does it take? And when is it, therefore, are we in a constitutional crisis and at the point where we need to force the constitutional crisis that, in fact, we're already in?
That's a really good question. You're right. Judicial review is a matter of inference rather than direct power given to the Supreme Court. I think we're pretty close to a constitutional crisis, largely because they've been able to organize so many judges to stop him. But I think there are ways to fix it, short of trying to review something that would be really hard to review because of the long practice with it.
Please forgive me, but just to say that for a long time, people have said we're not living in the Constitution because judges took away the anchor of original intent of the meaning of the words as they were intended, in which case the words can mean anything. So why even have the document? And that happened long ago. So that was a start, and now we have a ratcheting up potentially of the whole.
Well, this Supreme Court, despite the fact that it isn't 100% because two of them get squishy, largely does use original intent. And I really think we don't have a constitutional crisis if the Supreme Court straightens this out, which I think they will. And there are a couple of things Congress can do. There's a law now that is going to be proposed that a district judge cannot issue a nationwide injunction. I think a nationwide injunction is completely illegal and not at all justified by the Constitution. After all, you're not a Supreme Court justice for the entire United States. The president is a president for the entire United States. Now, you're a judge in the Eastern District of New York. Okay. That means you cover Brooklyn, Queens, Nassau, and Suffolk. You can't issue an injunction that affects Manhattan. Yeah, a judge in Manhattan would have to do that. Your power as a district judge doesn't go beyond your district. Now, if it gets up to the circuit has a couple of states. The circuit can't do it for the entire country. And they keep doing this. And it's completely unconstitutional. So the Supreme Court, I think, will eventually strike it down if they get the right case. But now there's legislation in the House to make that clear, to make it clear that and it's logical as hell, the power of a district judge extends just to that district. And so if you want to stop the president from removing people and sending them you can only do it in your district.
So now we hope the third branch will be a good referee for the first two branches or the other two branches.
No, we hope that the Supreme Court returns to an honest, I don't even call it original intent. I call it an intellectually honest interpretation of the Constitution. The Supreme Court doesn't get to write the Constitution. And they can't always be right, but they have to be intellectually honest. And a good many of them are complete liars. They just make it up. They make it up. I mean, that was the real problem. Whatever your feelings are or attitude about abortion, that was the real problem about abortion. It was made up. There's no right of privacy in the Constitution. Maybe there should be, but there isn't. And just because you think there should be, you can't put it there. You got to go do a constitutional amendment. So Justice Douglas created something really crazy. He said that there are other constitutional rights that have a penumbra of privacy. And you can take that penumbra and you can make it into a right. Now, I don't know what the hell he meant. I mean, that sounds like something on Sesame Street. And he finally got 5 judges on the court to kind of go along with it. And Blackmun wrote the opinion. But from the very, very beginning, even a left-wing very hard to defend. It was completely made up. And I guess it was the best example of the court legislating. So I think we've gotten the court way, way back to being an originalist court. And I think we're going to see the benefit of that this term. I think they are going to do away with the president's inability to fire whoever he wants. I think they're going to say the Constitution allows them to do that. I think they're going to also say that the president has to be given deference on foreign policy, immigration policy. So let's see what happens before we get to complete crisis. We're in a partial crisis right now. So what haven't we covered, Ted, that we got to cover?
Well, some quick updates on March Madness. Steven will be very happy to know that his Michigan State Spartans just defeated Ole Miss to move on to the Elite Eight.
Go green!
Go white. And of course, the University of Michigan will be playing a 9:30 tip-off coming up here. Maybe just getting ready to start.
Who do you root for?
I have family that went to both Michigan and Michigan State. I didn't go to either. In football, I root for Michigan. Yes,
I know that.
I didn't go to either school. For Michigan State, for basketball, I root for Michigan State. Tom Izzo's a fellow Yooper. That's the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
I root for Notre Dame. I didn't go to Notre Dame.
Yeah, exactly.
With football, Ted's what we call a Walmart Wolverine.
Those are fighting words. So that's what. And I'm a Michigan State grad. It's very rich for Steven to be saying this as a state guy. But yes, if you didn't go to the University of Michigan but support Michigan, some of the more mean elitist fans will sometimes refer to those folks as Walmart Wolverines. But I would suggest to them that it's not a very nice thing to do or say.
You don't say it during an election. No, definitely not. Go blue is what you say. That's the only acceptable answer in Michigan.
But yeah, so Michigan takes a lot of pride in their sports. So both basketball teams, State has won. Michigan is playing. That's our March Madness update.
I'm not going to show the picture because the guy's got enough troubles of him. I was thinking of doing it. But the mayor of New York yesterday wore what I consider a hat that is a sacrilege. Well, you know, part of sports for me is religious because I'm a Notre Dame fan because the nuns convinced me it was a sin not to be. So if I didn't...
Well, New York, no big colleges.
I think a lot of weekends where I didn't vote for Notre Dame, I confessed it as a sin. Father, forgive me for I have sinned. I didn't root for Notre Dame this weekend.
I noticed what a big...
Priest treated it worse than lying to my mother.
So that must be why there's such a big fan base for Notre Dame in New York City. All these young people going through the nuns
are still operating under the old, the church that Garfunkel, Attorney General Garfunkel.
I love that.
I just refuse to call crooks their right name. Attorney General Garfunkel thinks that Catholics who like the Latin Mass are we terrorists? We're terrorists. Yeah, we're white terrorists.
Yeah, that I'm sure it was under Obama, but definitely under Biden.
Extremely dangerous.
That's the rising threat of white nationalism and white supremacy. That was what they have been pushing.
Our reporter, Cara Castronova, and we'll put her on to report this herself so she's going to explain it, says that one person of the January 6 people that was convicted by the non-American D.C. District Court. Part of the evidence they used against her was that she had rosary beads, a statue of the Blessed Mother, and a crucifix in her house, which indicated that she was a white radical.
Right.
I mean, can you imagine that? Rosary beads, a statue of the Blessed Mother, and a crucifix, and this was entered into evidence. Seized by the FBI and entered into evidence in the district court in the District of Columbia, which is the one that's holding up most of what Trump is doing. And it was allowed as evidence to show that she's some kind of a white radical. Now, please, I've got to check with Cara. I asked her to get me the transcript. So if it's not true, we'll correct it.
Right. But the Haitians,
sounds true to me.
The Haitians and their voodoo stuff, that's all cool. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, you remember when they said the Haitians were, where was that? That was in Aurora. That
all
was
over the place.
Springfield, Ohio.
They were eating the cats and the dogs.
They're eating the cats. Yeah. They're eating the dogs.
The pets.
They're eating the cats.
Ohio.
The dogs.
I don't know if they were eating the cats or eating the dogs, but Haitians do sacrifice dogs.
Yeah.
I've been to Haiti. I mean, I've been to Haiti, a very difficult time. I went to Haiti to negotiate from Ronald Reagan. And I went to Haiti when 100,000 a month were coming into the United States, and some of them would drown and show up on the shores of Miami
and have like a Clinton Foundation T-shirt on.
Oh, that's before Clinton, screwed them, double-crossed them, stole from them, and treated them like, well, never mind. But anyway, I have great empathy with the Haitian people. I once wanted to belong to an order of priests that does a lot of its primary work in Haiti, and I know a lot of those priests who do it.
What order would that be?
The Montfort Fathers.
Ah, oh.
And also, I had wonderful Haitian citizens in New York, in Brooklyn. They were terrific. They became a very, very big part of the private car business, and run absolutely great businesses if you give them a chance and you treat them the right way. But I always wonder why the warning of Malcolm X hasn't meant more to minorities. Now, I don't quote Malcolm X for much because he embraced violence, as opposed to Martin Luther King, who didn't. However, he said one thing, I guess, out of frustration, and I guess even somebody that's wrong about most things can be right about something, which is the biggest enemy of my people are white liberals. They are the ones who are holding us back because they want to continue to enslave us in their own way for their own power. He was absolutely right. And it's still happening. And it's one of the great tragedies of our time. But we'll have to see how the visit to Denmark goes. I wonder if the president who's going to meet with the president of Finland is going to Finland's right nearby.
He's here all weekend, or he or she is here all weekend? The president of Finland is here?
Yeah, is it a he or she? I think it's a she.
Right. I think so
Finns.
too.
Awesome.
And of course, being from Michigan, we have a huge Finnish population where I'm from.
A lot of them, and play hockey.
We should go over there and sneak around and see if we can meet her.
It looks like it's Mr. Alexander Stubb.
Well, I'm glad we now know it's not a her, but we're looking for the right person.
You're right. Yeah, we should
you know how
see if he's around this weekend. Maybe we'll catch him at the course or something.
Yeah.
We'll see, Mayor. Well, we do have one piece of housekeeping to get to. Do we have any more news?
Do we have any more news?
We have one piece of internal housekeeping. We want to wish our colleague, Mr. Steven Schumacher, a very happy birthday. And this is where I wish we had some sort of bell or a whistle we could play, like a happy birthday. But here's Steven. I just want to say Steven's been one of my best friends for over 10 years now. We met in Washington, D.C., really at the beginning of the whole Trump era. I believe the day he announced, we were talking about it, and we had a lot of friends. And Steven will tell you, day one, I was on board, and he was as well. And we had a lot of Washington friends, right, at the time.
We were living in DC at the time.
I was ostracized by some of these people.
Community in DC.
When Trump first announced he was running in 2015, right? I was literally, I don't use that word. I was ostracized by a group of friends, right? I was very involved with the RNC as like a young Republican. A lot of these folks wouldn't talk to me. They got mad at me. I got called a racist. Will never forget these people.
That didn't work out too well for
so, but getting back, getting out the point here. Steven Schumacher, he's been so helpful for us and everything we're doing here.
Wonderful.
We want to wish him a very happy birthday. Join us.
Steven would be nothing without Raleigh.
Oh, yes, we need to thank Raleigh. I couldn't do it without Raleigh.
Raleigh's his dog.
And the director and producer of the show.
And, and definitely gets...
That explains a few things.
Oh, yeah. See, blame it on the dog. That's the good...
No. Anytime he shows up, our ratings go way up. People love dogs on shows.
Yeah.
They love dogs.
Certainly do.
It's cheating. It's cheating for ratings.
Maybe we could do a contract with him, make him a permanent... Maybe he could do the dog news.
Right.
Yeah, in which there is a lot of
the New York Post has a dog story every day. I think that there must be somebody there that loves dogs, about a dog that's been mistreated, or a dog who does something heroic.
We can highlight the heroic ones. I don't like the mistreated.
But you have to do it to show how bad people are. It's terrible what they do with dogs. So Marco Rubio is doing his job. He yanked 300 visas from protesters who protest trying to help Hamas. The distinction between that and free speech is you have a right to say anything you want, but you can't aid and abet an enemy of the United States.
Right.
So these people are now they're finding communications between Hamas and the protesters, which will make these cases even easier. But Marco's sort of rule of thumb is pretty good. If you come into the United States as a visitor and create a ruckus for us, we don't want it. You don't have a right to come in here. In your house, you invite 3 people in. One of them starts yelling and screaming, down with Trump, down with Trump. You throw him out. You don't have to have him here. Somebody doing a protest and all of a sudden every protest ends up with something burning down. After the second protest, out. Maybe after the first one. Somebody tries to stop Jewish students from getting into school. Out if you're not a citizen. That stupid judge, Merritt, Judge Merritt, right?
Judge Mellett.
Oh, Mellett, yeah, okay.
Merritt and Democrat don't go together too much.
Judge Mellett, when she was questioning about the removal of the Trendiaragua animals, said, "Well, the way you did it, you all could just come into my house and take me and say I was Trendiaragua and send me to El Salvador." Now, if I were arguing that case, I'd have said, "Judge, we got a real problem here. You're not a citizen?" Because they were not citizens, Judge. Oh, I guess you missed the whole point of the case, huh? Maybe you should if you're not a citizen, you should get off because you can't be a judge. And if you are a citizen, you should get off because you don't understand the damn case.
Love that.
Where do these people come from? They're not even smart. She was another torture of January 6 people. That's the one that should be the first to get investigated. The judges who persecuted the January 6 people. Now, you're going to tell me, oh, cops were hit and cops were beaten up. There's nobody that cares about cops more than I do. And anybody that beat up a cop without justification deserves a heavy sentence. But they don't deserve to be tortured. We don't torture people who murder cops. Oh, and by the way, it's pretty hard to hold these people when you got the murderer of Ashley Babbitt running around free and gave him hundreds of thousands of dollars. You think I can't figure out who murdered her? Well, I look stupid. And these completely lawless animals never paid attention to Ashley Babbitt at all. All those January 6 phony creeps. They've got one real serious crime, a woman killed in cold blood, and they don't even bother to mention it. What did she do to deserve to die? There's no evidence that she entered illegally. When she was climbing over the parapet, she didn't have a gun. She didn't do anything threatening. There were somewhere around 12 cops in the immediate vicinity. God, you need 12 cops to subdue a 5'2" woman without a gun? There were 2 people much closer to the cop who had instruments that could be used, who were banging down the door. If the cop had been overwhelmed by emotion because he's not a professional cop, he'd have shot the 2 people closest to him. They'd have gotten through that door faster, and they'd have gotten through that door. One of them with a big pole, and the other with a big helmet. And he's afraid of the 5'2" unarmed woman who's going to come over the top and land on her ass or her face, with 6 cops right there to handcuff her, and 6 cops over there in dressed up like the SS with machine guns. It was a planned murder. right down to the guy who was filming it knowing exactly where to put the camera to catch the gun. And I read the grand jury testimony. Nobody ever asked him the only defense that he would have, which is, were you in reasonable fear for your life? And if he'd answered yes, you'd have laughed your head off. That if he was, there was nothing that created reasonable fear for his life, such that he should blow her brains out. Well, I think we've covered everything that we have to. We'll be back on Monday at 7 on X.
Lindell TV.
Lindell TV, and then X again, America's Mayor Live. We will come on this weekend if there are any updates on the 3 elections that are of importance. And we remind any of you who are in Wisconsin to go vote, or any of you who know people in Wisconsin, to call them up and tell them to go vote. It could mean the difference in whether they can steal Wisconsin again or not in a presidential election. Could mean a difference in a lot of other things too.
Right.
And if you know anyone in Florida, either in the middle area of Florida, surrounding Daytona Beach,
the 6th district,
in the 6th district,
right?
Call them up and tell them to go vote, because we need every vote we can get to keep the small margin we have in the House. And if you know anybody up in Matt Gaetz's old district, which is the panhandle of Florida, call them and remind them to vote.
That's right.
We win this if people vote. It's a big Republican.
They're both big Republican districts.
But the fear is everybody's going to be lazy. Everybody, they're going to.
Yeah, it's an off year. The swing elections are a very real thing in America. Often the party that takes the presidential year don't perform nearly as well, because the idea is the other side is more energized the following year, right, Mayor? And,
yeah. And even worse in one of these unexpected elections.
You're right. So on top of a special election.
When we get to the election day in November, it'll be the same thing, but it'll be a little bit more because people are used to it.
Right. Well, New Jersey and Virginia.
New Jersey, Virginia, and who knows? We'll
gubernatorial races. And the mayor, and New York has their mayor's race the year after presidential.
But here, there's no notice of it, and people tend to not think about it. But the stakes happen to be much higher than usual. So make sure you get involved.
Right.
And pray for the people of Israel and the people of Ukraine who are waiting for peace. It's coming. And for the people of Iran who are waiting for freedom, and that's coming too. And also spend a little time thanking God for all that he's given us, including giving us the right person at the right time. God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country,
A country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,